The door stayed locked. Sarah Mitchell stood in frozen mud, 3 boys behind her watching the storekeeper's hand flip the sign closed. Her youngest son's boot was tied with kitchen string. Her eldest hadn't eaten in 2 days. Across the square, the preacher raised his Bible like a weapon. "A woman without a man is a curse upon this town." The crowd murmured agreement. Sarah's knees nearly buckled. Then a voice low and steady cut through the cold air. "So do I, Reverend. Guess that makes 2 curses you'll have to live with." Before we begin, please subscribe and stay until the end of this story. Comment which city you're watching from. I want to see how far Sarah's journey reaches. Now let's go back to where it all started. The morning Sarah Mitchell's life shattered. For the second time, snow fell like ash over Mercy Creek, Montana. She stood outside Dalton's General Store at dawn, her 3 sons pressed close against the February wind. Daniel was 12 shoulders already too broad for his threadbare coat. Jacob 9 clutched the coin purse, $4.30, everything they had left. Samuel the baby, at 6 years old, hadn't spoken since his father died 3 months ago. Through the frosted window, Sarah watched Dalton unlock the door for Mrs. Henderson. Saw him smile, saw him tip his hat, saw him hold the door wide. "Mama," Jacob whispered, "can we go in now?" Sarah's hand tightened on his shoulder. "Wait." The Reese brothers arrived next. Dalton laughed at something they said, waved them inside like old friends. Then came young Tom from the mill, barely 16, and Dalton clapped him on the back. Sarah counted to 10, smoothed her skirt. It was clean, she'd made sure of that. Spent an hour brushing away every speck of dirt, every reminder that they lived 5 miles outside town in a cabin with gaps in the walls. She stepped forward. Dalton saw her through the glass. Their eyes met. His hand moved to the sign. Slow, deliberate. He flipped it closed. "Mama," Daniel's voice cracked. "Why?" "Hush now." But Samuel had already seen. His small hand slipped from hers, and Sarah watched something die in his eyes. The same thing that had died when they'd lowered his father into frozen ground, when the coffin hit bottom, and Samuel's mouth had opened, but no sound came out. "Please." Sarah knocked on the glass. "Mr. Dalton, I just need flour, salt. I have money." Dalton turned his back. Inside the store, Mrs. Henderson stared. The Reese brothers whispered. Young Tom looked at his feet. "I have money." Sarah's voice rose cracked. She hated the desperation in it, hated that her sons heard her beg. "I can pay." Dalton walked to the back of the store and disappeared behind a curtain. Jacob's hand trembled on the coin purse. "Mama, what do we do?" Sarah didn't answer. Couldn't. Because across the square, the church bells started ringing, and she knew what came next. "Come on, boys." She turned away from the store spine, straight head high. She'd be damned if these people saw her cry. But then Samuel stumbled. The kitchen string holding his boot together had come loose, and the sole flapped open against the mud. Sarah knelt, her knees sinking into frozen slush that soaked through her skirt. Her fingers were too cold, too stiff. The string kept slipping. "Here." Daniel crouched beside her, his larger hands taking over. "I got it, Mama." While he worked, Sarah looked up. The church steps were filling with people. Sunday service. Everyone in their pressed clothes, their polished boots, their certainty that God loved them more than he loved a widow and her boys. Reverend Clayton stood at the top of the steps, Bible under one arm. He raised his free hand like Moses parting the Red Sea. "Good people of Mercy Creek." His voice carried across the square, deep and righteous. "There are those among us who defy the natural order." Sarah's stomach dropped. A woman without a man's guidance is a danger to herself and her children. The Lord himself commands that widows submit to the authority of the church, to the wisdom of righteous men. Daniel finished tying Samuel's boot. He stood, placed himself between his mother and the preacher. "Don't listen, Mama." But Sarah was already standing, already facing Clayton. She wouldn't give him her back. Wouldn't let him think she was afraid. Sarah Mitchell's family, Clayton continued, his voice rising, is unwelcome in this house of God until she repents her obstinacy, until she accepts proper guidance. A woman alone is a vessel for sin, a threat to the moral fabric of our community. Faces turned. 60 people, maybe more. Some looked away, shame flickering in their eyes. Others stared with cold righteousness. Mrs. Patterson, who used to bring soup when Thomas was sick. The Wheeler family, whose barn Sarah's husband had helped raise. Even young Mary from the schoolhouse, who'd once called Sarah the kindest woman in town. All of them. Watching. Silent. Sarah's hands curled into fists. "Mama." Jacob's voice was small. "Can we go home now?" "Yes, baby. We can go home." She took Samuel's hand, still silent, always silent now, and turned toward the wilderness road. 5 miles. They could walk it in 2 hours if the snow didn't get worse. Behind her, Clayton's voice rang out. "Pride goeth before destruction, and a haughty spirit before a fall." Sarah kept walking, but then, "Excuse me, Reverend." A man's voice. Not loud, but it cut through Clayton's sermon like a knife through silk. Sarah stopped. The crowd shifted, murmured. She turned her head just enough to see. A man stood near the back of the crowd, tall and broad-shouldered, in a worn coat that had seen better years. His hat was pulled low, but Sarah could see his jaw tight with anger. Beside him, a little girl, maybe 8 years old, her hand clutched in his. "Mr. Cole." Clayton's voice dripped with false warmth. "How good of you to join us. I trust you've been reflecting on your own need for community guidance." "I've been reflecting," the man Cole said quietly, "on how Jesus treated widows and orphans." The crowd went silent. "Pretty sure he didn't lock them out of stores, didn't ban them from churches, didn't stand in fancy clothes and call them dangerous while their children went hungry." Clayton's face flushed red. "Mr. Cole, you are new to this town. You don't understand our ways are—" "I understand a bully when I see one." Cole's voice stayed level, but his hands were fists at his sides, knuckles white. "And I understand that any man who'd weaponize God's word to hurt a woman and her boys ain't worth the spit to shine his boots." "How dare you?" Clayton stepped down one stair. "I am a man of God. I speak with his authority." "Then God's got worse taste in representatives than I thought." Someone in the crowd gasped. Sarah couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Cole looked at her then. Really looked. Their eyes met across the square. In that moment, Sarah saw something she recognized. Not pity, not charity. Recognition. Like two people drowning in the same river catching sight of each other in the current. "Mrs. Mitchell," Cole called out, his voice carrying. "I don't know you. Don't know your story. But I know hunger when I see it, and I know cruelty dressed up as righteousness." He stepped forward. The crowd parted. "I got a wagon, I got supplies, and I got no patience for men who hide behind God to justify their meanness." He tipped his hat to her. "If you'll accept help from a stranger, I'd be honored to offer it." Sarah's throat closed. "I don't need charity." "Good. Neither do I." Cole's eyes never left hers. "I'm offering trade. Your land needs work before spring. I need work. Your boys can learn while we build. Fair exchange. No debt, no obligation." Behind him, the little girl tugged his sleeve. "Papa, are we helping them?" "Yes, Emma, we are." "Good." The child's voice was bright clear. "Mama always said we help people when they're hurting." Cole's jaw tightened at the mention of his wife, but he nodded. Clayton descended another step. "Mr. Cole, if you persist in this defiance, you will find yourself as unwelcome as Mrs. Mitchell. Your daughter will be." "So do I, Reverend." Cole's voice dropped to something dangerous. "Guess that makes 2 curses you'll have to live with." He turned his back on the preacher. walked toward Sarah. "Ma'am." He stopped a respectful distance away. "Name's Wyatt Cole. Widower. New to Mercy Creek, though I'm guessing that's changing fast." Sarah studied him. His hands were calloused honest. His eyes were gray like storm clouds, and they held no calculation, no hidden price. "Sarah Mitchell," she managed. "Also widowed. Also unwelcome." "Then I reckon we understand each other." He extended his hand. After a moment, Sarah shook it. His grip was firm, warm. "I got a wagon back at my place," Wyatt said. "Flour, salt, dried meat. Enough to see you through a few weeks. And timber, I've been meaning to build something, just wasn't sure what. Figured your land could use a barn." "I can't pay you." "Didn't ask you to. Asked if you'd let me work." His eyes flicked to her boys. "And if they'd like to learn." Daniel stepped forward, chin raised. "What kind of work?" "Carpentry. Foundation to roof. Hard work, honest work." Wyatt met the boy's eyes with respect. "You got the shoulders for it." Daniel's chest swelled slightly. Sarah saw it, the hunger for someone to see him as more than a burden, more than a mouth to feed. "Mama," Jacob whispered, "can we say yes?" Sarah looked at Samuel. He was staring at Emma, the little girl who'd emerged from behind Wyatt's legs. Emma waved, shy but friendly. Samuel's hand lifted. Just slightly. A wave back. The first voluntary gesture he'd made in 3 months. "Yes," Sarah breathed. "Yes, we can say yes." Behind them, Clayton's voice rose in fury. "You will all be held accountable for this defiance. The judgment of God will—" But Wyatt had already turned away, walking back toward the crowd. They parted for him, uneasy now. He climbed into a wagon Sarah hadn't noticed before, parked beyond the church. Emma scrambled up beside him. "Follow me, Mrs. Mitchell," he called. "Your place is 5 miles south on Wilderness Road, right. How did you—" "Asked around when I first got to town. Wanted to know who my neighbors were." He snapped the reins. "Seems I picked the right neighbor." Sarah watched him go, her heart hammering. "Mama?" Daniel's hand found her shoulder. "Is this real?" "I think so, baby." "Are we gonna trust him?" Sarah looked at her eldest son, 12 years old, trying so hard to be the man of the house, trying so hard to be his father. "Your daddy used to say you measure a man by what he does when the storm comes, not what he says when the sun's shining." She squeezed Daniel's shoulder. "Mr. Cole just walked into a storm for strangers. So yes, I think we trust him." They started walking. Behind them, the crowd on the church steps was already dispersing, whispering, casting looks over their shoulders. Sarah didn't care. For the first time in 3 months, she felt something other than fear. She felt hope. Hig. 2. The walk home took 90 minutes. Snow fell steadily, turning the road into a white tunnel through bare trees. Samuel held Sarah's hand the whole way. Jacob chattered nervously, asking questions nobody could answer. Daniel walked ahead, rifle slung over his shoulder, scanning the tree line for threats that never came. By the time they reached the homestead, Wyatt's wagon was already there. He'd unhitched his horse and was unloading supplies: flour sacks, salt-dried pork, a crate of canned goods, timber planks, a box of tools. "Papa's fast," Emma said, appearing from behind the wagon. She smiled at Samuel. "Do you like building things?" Samuel nodded. "Actual communication." Sarah's chest ached. "Me too." Emma bounced on her toes. "Papa says I'm good at holding nails. Are you good at holding nails?" Samuel held up his small hands, examining them seriously. "I think you are," Emma decided. "Want to help me organize Papa's toolbox?" Samuel looked at Sarah. She nodded. He followed Emma around to the side of the wagon. "Well, I'll be damned," Daniel breathed. "Language," Sarah said automatically, but her eyes were wet. Wyatt approached, pulling off his work gloves. Didn't mean to overstep, ma'am. Just figured we'd lose daylight if we waited. You didn't overstep. Sarah's voice was rough. You gave my boy his voice back. That's worth more than... She couldn't finish. Wyatt's eyes softened. My Emma didn't speak for 2 months after my Mary died. Sometimes children need other children to remind them the world still got good in it. They stood in awkward silence. Then, your place needs work, Wyatt said, looking at the cabin. Gaps in the walls, roofs sagging on the west side, and you'll need a barn before spring planting or your livestock won't survive. I don't have livestock. You will. I know a man selling goats cheap, 2 milkers and a billy, and chickens Moses Red over in town's got pullets he can't winter. Says he'll give them away to anyone willing to take them. Sarah stared. Moses Red barely knows me. He knows enough. Wyatt's jaw tightened. He was at church today, watched the whole thing. Came up to me after and said, "That woman's got spine. Help her if you can." Moses stood up for me. Quiet-like. Not everyone in that town's rotten, Mrs. Mitchell. Just the loud ones. Daniel appeared at Sarah's elbow. Sir Mr. Cole, where do you want me to start? Wyatt turned, studying the boy. You know how to use a level? Yes, sir. My daddy taught me. Good. Then we start with foundation. Can't build anything strong without good foundation. He walked toward the wagon. First, we mark the ground. Barn's going here. He pointed to a flat stretch near the tree line. 30 feet by 20. Big enough for animal storage and a workshop. Workshop? Sarah followed him. Mr. Cole, I can't afford... Not asking you to afford anything. He pulled out a chalk line. I'm asking you to let me work. Let your boys learn. Let me teach them what their daddy would have taught them if he'd had the time. The words hit Sarah like a fist. She turned away, blinking hard. Wyatt's voice softened. I'm sorry, ma'am. That was... true. Sarah faced him again, chin raised. That was true. Thomas would have wanted them to learn. He'd have... Her voice cracked. He'd have liked you. Something passed between them. Understanding, maybe. Or recognition that they were both stumbling through grief, trying to raise children in the ruins of their losses. Mama... Jacob ran up breathless. Emma says they're going to teach us carpentry. Real carpentry. Can I help? May I help? Sarah corrected automatically. May I? She looked at Wyatt. He nodded. Yes, baby, you may help. By afternoon, the foundation was marked. Wyatt taught Daniel how to use a plumb line, how to check corners for square, how to dig post holes in frozen ground without breaking your back. Jacob and Emma hauled smaller stones for the foundation, making it a game who could find the flattest rock, the roundest, the one that looked most like a face. Samuel organized tools, his small hands careful and deliberate. And Sarah stood on the porch watching, just watching. For the first time since Thomas died, she wasn't alone in the work, wasn't carrying everything by herself. Mrs. Mitchell. She turned. Wyatt stood at the base of the porch steps, hat in his hands. Yes. It's near supper time. Emma and I don't want to impose, but... He shifted his weight. We got nowhere pressing to be, and I'd consider it an honor if you'd let us share your table tonight. Sarah's first instinct was to refuse. To say she didn't have enough, couldn't spare it. But then, she looked at Emma laughing as she chased Samuel around the wagon. Looked at Daniel standing taller than he had in months, holding a level like it meant something. Looked at Jacob grinning as he showed Emma his collection of face rocks. 6 o'clock, she said. If you're staying, you eat with us. Wyatt's smile was slight but real. Much obliged, ma'am. Sarah, she corrected. If we're partners, you call me Sarah. Then you call me Wyatt. Fair exchange. Inside, Sarah stood at her stove, staring at the meager supplies. 1 rabbit already stretched into stew. Half a bag of beans. Cornmeal enough for bread if she was careful, not enough for 6. Then she heard boots on the porch. Ma'am Sarah? Wyatt's voice. I brought salt pork, Figured it'd stretch the stew. And Emma found wild onions by the tree line. And well, I took the liberty of bringing coffee. Real coffee. Been saving it, but tonight seems worth it. Sarah closed her eyes, took a breath. Come in, Wyatt. He entered, supplies in hand, set them on the table with quiet respect. I'll leave these here. Emma and I can eat outside if... Sit down. Sarah's voice was firmer than she felt. You came into this house as a guest. You'll eat at this table like family. Wyatt's throat worked. Yes, ma'am. The meal was simple. Rabbit stew, now rich with salt pork and onions. Cornbread dense and warm. Coffee bitter and perfect. But the table was full. 6 people, elbows touching passing bowls, sharing smiles. Emma told a story about a raccoon that stole her papa's hat. Samuel laughed, actually laughed, a sound like bells. Jacob peppered Wyatt with questions about building. Daniel ate in silence, but his shoulders were relaxed, his face soft. And Sarah. Sarah sat at the head of her table, surrounded by voices and warmth, and realized she was smiling. Across from her, Wyatt met her eyes. Thank you, she mouthed. He shook his head. Thank you. After supper, while Sarah and Emma washed dishes, the men Daniel was a man, now Sarah realized, stood outside looking at the stars. You ever built anything big? Daniel asked Wyatt. Built a house once, back in Missouri. Took me and my brother all summer. Your brother's still in Missouri. Died in the war. Shiloh. Daniel was quiet. Then, my daddy died at Antietam. I'm sorry, son. Mama says he died so other people could be free. She says that matters. It does matter. Wyatt's voice was rough. Takes courage to fight for something bigger than yourself. You think he'd be proud of how I'm trying to take care of them? Wyatt looked at the boy, too young to carry this weight, too old to set it down. I think he'd be proud you're still standing. That's all any father wants for his son, to stand when the world tries to knock you down. Daniel's eyes filled. He turned away, swiping at his face. Wyatt pretended not to notice. Inside, Emma helped Samuel line up wooden spoons by size. Sarah watched them from the corner of her eye. Your papa's a good man, she said quietly. Emma nodded. He cries sometimes, at night, when he thinks I'm asleep. He misses Mama. Sarah's chest ached. I know that feeling. Do you cry too? Sometimes. Papa says it's okay to cry. He says it means you loved someone enough to miss them. Emma looked up, her eyes too wise for 8 years old. Do you think my mama and your husband are friends in heaven? Sarah's breath caught. I think they might be. Good, Emma smiled. Then they're not lonely. At the door, Wyatt gathered Emma's coat. We should head back. Don't want to overstay. Where are you staying? Sarah asked. Got a room above the livery in town. It's 5 miles in the dark with a child. Sarah crossed her arms. The barn's not finished, but we've got floor space by the fire. You're welcome to stay. Wyatt hesitated. It's practical, Sarah pressed. We start work at dawn. Makes no sense to ride back and forth. Mama's right, Daniel said. It's just practical. Wyatt looked at Emma. She nodded eagerly. All right then. Much obliged. They made pallets by the fire. The cabin was small, crowded, but warm. Sarah gave Emma and Wyatt the blankets that had been Thomas's. In the darkness, lying awake, Sarah listened to the sounds of breathing around her. 5 other people safe under her roof. She hadn't felt this safe in months. Across the room, Wyatt lay awake, too, staring at the ceiling. Emma was curled against his side, already asleep. He thought of Mary. Wondered if she'd approve of this. Wondered if she'd understand that he wasn't replacing her, just learning to live again. Wyatt. Sarah's whisper carried across the dark. Yeah. Thank you. For today. For all of it. Nothing to thank me for? There is. Her voice wavered. I was drowning. You threw me a rope. So do I, Wyatt said quietly. Guess we're pulling each other out. Outside, wind rattled the shutters. Snow kept falling. But inside, 6 people slept. And for the first time in a long time, none of them were alone. 3 days passed like a dream Sarah was afraid to wake from. Wyatt and Emma stayed. Not in the cabin, Wyatt insisted on propriety set up a tent by the barn site, despite Sarah's protests. But they were there at dawn working until dusk, and somehow the homestead felt less like a place Sarah was clinging to, and more like a home. The barn rose timber by timber. Wyatt taught Daniel how to notch logs so they'd fit together tight, how to read wood grain to know where it'd split, how to swing a hammer from the shoulder instead of the wrist. "You're stronger than you know," Wyatt told him on the 3rd morning watching Daniel drive a spike clean through oak. "Your daddy would have been proud." Daniel didn't answer, but his eyes went bright. He worked harder after that, faster, and Sarah watched her boy become something she almost didn't recognize. Not a child anymore, not quite a man, something in between reaching. Jacob and Emma were inseparable. They hauled water from the creek, collected kindling, chased the wild chickens that Moses Red had delivered the 2nd day, 6 hens, and a rooster that pecked at anything that moved. "Meanest damn bird I ever met," Moses had said, handing over the crate, "but his hens lay good. And you need eggs more than I need the aggravation. Moses, I can't pay." "Didn't ask you to." Moses had tipped his hat and ridden away before Sarah could argue. Samuel followed Emma everywhere, his shadow. She taught him hand-game songs her mama used to sing, how to braid grass into bracelets. And Samuel spoke. Not much, just a word here and there, but enough that Sarah cried when she heard him ask Emma, "Can I help?" while they sorted nails by size. "He's coming back to us," Daniel said that night, watching Samuel sleep. "Ain't he, Mama?" "Yes, baby, he's coming back." But it was the evening Sarah treasured most. When the work was done and they gathered around the table, 6 bodies crowded onto 4 chairs and 2 crates. Wyatt told stories about Missouri, about his brother, who could spit 20 feet, about the time he accidentally shoot a mule backward and it walked in circles for a week. Emma told stories about her mama, about the garden she kept, about the lullabies she sang. And slowly, carefully, Sarah told stories about Thomas. About the time he'd tried to cook and burned water. Actually burned water, she didn't know how it was possible. About the way he'd danced with her in the kitchen, no music, just humming. About the last thing he'd said before he left for war. "Keep our boys safe, that's all that matters." "You did that," Wyatt said quietly. "You kept them safe." "Barely. Barely's enough." On the 4th morning, Warren Kent came. Sarah saw him first, a rider on a black horse, expensive saddle clothes too fine for ranch work. Behind him, 2 men on work horses and a wagon loaded with supplies. Her stomach dropped. "Daniel!" Her voice was sharp. "Get the rifle." "Already got it." He appeared at her elbow, Winchester in hand. Wyatt emerged from the barn, carpenter's belt, still strapped on, hammer hanging at his hip. He saw Kent and his jaw went tight. "You know him?" Sarah asked. "Know of him. Warren Kent. Owns half the valley. Heard he's been buying up land from folks who can't make payments." "My land's not for sale." "Might want to tell him that." Kent rode up slow, taking his time, letting them see the supplies in his wagon. Flour, salt, bacon, blankets, even a crate of canned peaches, more food than Sarah had seen in months. He dismounted, pulled off his gloves with deliberate care. "Mrs. Mitchell." His voice was smooth as new leather. "I heard about your difficulties in town. Thought I'd offer assistance." Sarah stepped forward, rifle across her chest. Not aimed. Not yet. "I don't need assistance, Mr. Kent." "Everyone needs assistance, ma'am, especially a woman alone with 3 boys. His eyes flicked to Wyatt. "Though I see you found help elsewhere." "I found a business partner," Sarah said evenly. "Mr. Cole's helping me build." "Ah." Kent's smile showed too many teeth. "Temporary arrangement, I assume." Wyatt's hand dropped to his hammer. "Permanent as Mrs. Mitchell wants it to be." Kent's eyes narrowed. "Mr. Cole, I've heard about you too. Widower. New to these parts. Looking to settle down, I'd imagine. I'm settled enough. Are you? Kent turned back to Sarah. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm a reasonable man, a businessman. I understand you're in a difficult position. Taxes due, no income, winter coming. I can solve those problems. He pulled a paper from his coat, unfolded it with a snap. This is a contract, simple terms. Sign it and all your debts disappear. Your boys eat through spring. You get protection, resources, security. Sarah's hands tightened on the rifle. And what do you get? A wife. The word hung in the air like a threat. Daniel's breath caught. Jacob, standing behind Sarah, made a small sound. A marriage contract, Kent continued. You become Mrs. Kent. Your boys get a father. Your land becomes mine, ours, I should say. And you never have to worry about locked doors or cruel preachers again. Sarah's throat closed. You're offering to buy me. I'm offering to save you. Kent's voice hardened. Look around, Mrs. Mitchell. You think you can survive out here alone? You think Reverend Clayton's going to forget about you, that the town's suddenly going to open its arms? I'm not alone. No. Kent glanced at Wyatt. You've got a drifter and a barn that's not finished. What happens when he leaves? When winter gets hard? When your boys are starving and I'm the only one offering food? I'd rather chop my furniture for firewood, Sarah said, her voice quiet and sharp as a blade, than sign my life to a man who'd weaponize hunger against children. Kent's smile vanished. 3 days, Sarah. You've got 3 days to reconsider. After that, I file for foreclosure on your land taxes. $200 due in April. You don't have it. You won't get it. He remounted his horse. And when I file, you'll be begging me to reconsider. He nodded to his men. They unloaded the supplies anyway, stacking them in the snow, not charity, but bait. Then Kent rode away, his wagon creaking behind him. Sarah stood shaking, not from cold, from rage. Mama! Daniel's hand found her shoulder. We'll manage. We always do. Will we? Sarah's voice cracked. He's right. I don't have $200. I don't have $20. I don't have... You've got us. Wyatt stepped closer. You've got me and Daniel and these boys, and you've got spine enough for 10 people. That counts for something. It doesn't count for $200. Then we find $200. How? Sarah spun on him. How do we find that kind of money? I can't sell anything. I don't own anything worth selling. I can't work in town. No one will hire me. I can't... Her voice broke. I can't lose this land. It's all they have left of their father. Wyatt's hands clenched. You won't lose it. You can't promise that. Watch me. That night, Sarah couldn't sleep. She stood on the porch staring at Kent's supplies, still sitting in the snow. Temptation in burlap sacks. The door creaked. Wyatt stepped out, coat over his shoulders. Couldn't sleep either. Too angry. Good anger or bad anger? Sarah laughed harsh. Is there a difference? Yeah, good anger makes you fight. Bad anger makes you quit. He leaned against the porch rail. Which one you got? I don't know anymore. They stood in silence. Then, my Mary died because a doctor wouldn't come. Wyatt's voice was low, rough. We were poor, see. Couldn't pay up front. And the doctor, he said he'd come after he finished with his paying patients. By the time he arrived, she'd bled out. Emma survived, but Mary... His throat worked. I stood there holding my wife's body, and that doctor said, should have paid up front. Like she was livestock. Like her life was worth less because my pockets were empty. Sarah's eyes burned. I know what it's like, Wyatt continued, to have someone with money tell you they can save you, but only if you sell yourself to them. To feel like you're drowning, and the only rope is tied to an anchor. What did you do? I buried her. Alone. Under a cottonwood tree because her family wouldn't let me use their cemetery, said I wasn't good enough. He turned to face Sarah. Then I picked up my daughter and I left. Came here. Started over. And now you're in the middle of my mess. I chose your mess. That's different. Why? Sarah's voice broke. Why would you choose this? You could walk away. Take Emma somewhere easier. Somewhere safe. Because I'm tired of walking away. Wyatt's eyes held hers. I'm tired of men like Kent thinking they can own people just because they got more money. I'm tired of preachers like Clayton using God as a weapon. And I'm tired— His voice softened. I'm tired of being alone. Sarah's breath caught. I know it's too soon, Wyatt said quickly. I know you're scared. Hell, I'm scared too. But I also know that some things are worth being scared for. Wyatt. You don't have to say anything. I needed you to know. I'm not helping you because I pity you. I'm helping you because I see you. And because I think— He swallowed hard. I think maybe you see me too. The space between them felt charged dangerous. Sarah stepped closer. I do see you. Yeah. Yeah. The kiss was not passionate. It was tender, hesitant tasting of desperation and hope, all tangled together. Wyatt's hand came up to cup her face, gentle as prayer. Sarah's fingers gripped his coat like an anchor. When they pulled apart, both were breathing hard. That was— Wyatt started. Terrifying, Sarah finished. Yeah. Good terrifying or bad terrifying? A smile tugged at his mouth. Good terrifying. Inside the cabin, Daniel lay awake on his pallet, staring at the ceiling. He'd heard the door open, heard voices. Through the window, he'd seen the kiss. His first instinct was anger. How dare she? How dare she move on, let another man? But then he remembered his father's last letter. The one that arrived 3 weeks after the telegram saying Thomas Mitchell had died at Antietam. Take care of your mama, the letter had said in his father's careful handwriting. She's stronger than she knows, but even strong people need someone to lean on. Don't let her be alone, Daniel. Promise me. Daniel closed his eyes. I promise, Pa. The next morning, Daniel found Wyatt sharpening tools behind the barn. Mr. Cole. Wyatt looked up. Daniel. I saw you, last night, with Mama. Wyatt set down the whetstone. I figured. You care about her. Yes. You gonna hurt her? Not if I can help it. Daniel studied him. My pa used to say that love isn't a feeling, it's a choice. You choose it every morning when you wake up, every night when you go to sleep. You choose it when it's hard, when it hurts, when it'd be easier to quit. Your pa was a smart man. He was. Daniel's voice cracked. And I miss him. Every damn day I miss him. That's not gonna stop. Missing him. I know. Daniel swallowed hard. But maybe it hurts less if there's someone else around. Someone who makes her smile again. Wyatt's throat worked. I'm not trying to replace him. Good, because you couldn't. Daniel met his eyes. But maybe you could be something else, something new. What would that be? I don't know yet. Daniel picked up a hammer, tested its weight. But I guess we'll figure it out. By midday, the barn's frame was up. 4 walls, gaps for windows, and a door, but standing. Real. Something they'd built with their hands. Emma and Samuel stood inside, their voices echoing. It's like a castle, Emma said. Castle, Samuel echoed, and Sarah nearly wept at the sound. Jacob ran in circles around the perimeter. Can we sleep in here tonight? Please. It'd be like camping. It's got no roof, Daniel pointed out. We could hang canvas like a tent. Sarah looked at Wyatt. He shrugged, grinning. Why not? That night they strung canvas across the rafters, built a fire in a circle of stones, and made beds on the dirt floor. It was cold, drafty, ridiculous. It was perfect. They roasted the bacon from Kent's supplies, might as well use them, Sarah figured, and made cornbread in a Dutch oven. Emma taught Samuel a clapping game. Jacob told ghost stories that made everyone laugh. Daniel played harmonica slow and mournful, a tune his father used to hum. And Sarah sat beside Wyatt, their shoulders touching, watching their children be children. "This is what it should be," she said quietly. "What ma life, family, this." Wyatt's hand found hers in the darkness. "Then let's keep it." "How Kent's not going away? The taxes. We'll figure it out." His grip tightened. Together. Later, after the children slept, Sarah and Wyatt stood outside the barn, staring up at stars so bright they looked close enough to touch. "You ever think about what happens after?" Sarah asked. "After what?" "After we finish the barn. After you've paid your debt or obligation or whatever this is." She turned to face him. "What happens when there's no more work to do?" Wyatt was quiet for a long moment. "I guess I stay anyway, if you'll have me." "As what?" "Whatever you need. Partner, friend, more if—" He stopped, uncertain. Sarah stepped closer. "I need you to be honest with me. About what this is. About what you want. I want to wake up and not feel like I'm drowning. I want Emma to have a family again. I want—" His voice dropped. "I want you. Not your land, not your labor. You." "I'm broken, Wyatt. I'm angry and scared, and I don't know if I can—" "So am I. Broken, I mean. Maybe we can be broken together. Maybe that's enough." Sarah kissed him, then harder than before, her hands fisted in his coat. Wyatt made a sound low in his throat, pulled her closer, and for a moment the world narrowed to just this warmth and want and the terrifying possibility of hope. When they broke apart, both were shaking. "We should go slow," Sarah breathed. "Yeah. Be careful, for the children." "Yeah." Neither of them moved. Then Emma's voice called from inside the barn. "Papa Samuel's having a bad dream." The moment shattered. Wyatt stepped back, nodded, and headed inside. Sarah stood alone in the cold, her heart hammering. She'd kissed a man who wasn't Thomas. Wanted a man who wasn't Thomas. And God help her, it felt right. The next day, Moses Red returned. This time he brought company. "Mrs. Mitchell," Moses called from his wagon. "Got some folks want to help." Behind him, 3 more wagons. Sarah recognized some of the faces, the storekeeper's daughter, pale and nervous. Tom from the mill, looking defiant. A rancher named Hewitt, who'd always nodded politely when Sarah came to town. "What's this?" Sarah asked. Moses climbed down slow, his old bones protesting. "Turns out not everyone in Mercy Creek's got rocks for hearts. Word got around about what you and Cole are building. Figured you could use extra hands." Tom stepped forward, hat in hands. "I'm sorry, ma'am, for not speaking up before, for letting them treat you like—" He swallowed. "I want to make it right." The storekeeper's daughter, Abigail Sarah, remembered, approached with a basket. "Brought bread and jam, and I'm good with a hammer if you need help." One by one they came forward, offering tools, supplies, labor. Not charity. Something better. Community. Daniel watched from the barn, arms crossed. "They ignored us for months. Now they want to help." "Better late than never," Wyatt said quietly. "People do the right thing in their own time. All we can do is accept when they finally do." "You really believe that?" "I have to. Otherwise, what's the point of forgiving anyone?" By noon 12, people were working. The barn went from frame to structure. Walls were raised, windows cut, a roof begun. Moses worked alongside Wyatt, the 2 men falling into the easy rhythm of experienced builders. "You're good at this," Moses observed. "Had practice." "Where you from, Cole?" "Missouri." "You?" "Virginia originally. Moved west after the war." Moses hammered a nail, his hands still strong despite his age. "Lost my son at Petersburg. Wife couldn't stand the grief. Left me." He shrugged. Been alone since. You're not alone now. Moses smiled, sad and warm. No, I suppose I'm not. By late afternoon, the barn had a roof. Not finished, but functional. And sitting on the new porch Hewitt had insisted on building, Sarah watched her land transform. It's beautiful, Abigail said, sitting beside her. What you're building here? It's just a barn. No. Abigail shook her head. It's more than that. It's proof that we don't have to stay broken just because someone broke us. Sarah's eyes filled. Is that why you came, to fix yourself? Maybe. Or maybe I came because you reminded me that being kind isn't weakness. It's the bravest thing we can do. That evening they shared a meal. 13 people crowded around makeshift tables, planks on sawhorses, eating stew and cornbread and laughing. Real laughter, the kind that comes from shared work and shared purpose. Kent's foreman rode past on the road, slowed his horse, stared at the crowd, at Wyatt directing workers, at Sarah, standing tall and unafraid. Then he spurred away fast. That's not good, Moses muttered. No, Wyatt agreed. That's not good at all. By sunset, the volunteers had left, promising to return tomorrow. The barn stood silhouetted against the orange sky, solid and real. Sarah stood inside, running her hand along a beam Daniel had notched himself. We did it, she whispered. We actually did it. We're not finished, Wyatt said from the doorway. Close enough. He stepped inside, his footsteps echoing. Sarah, about Kent. I know, he's not going to let this go. No, he's not. Men like him, they don't forgive defiance. So what do? Wyatt was quiet. Then, we stand, together, whatever comes. And if standing's not enough, then we stand anyway, because that's all we can control, how we face the storm, not whether it comes. Sarah turned to him. I'm tired of storms. I know. He closed the distance between them. But you're still standing. That's what matters. Am I standing? You tell me. Sarah looked around the barn, at the walls they'd raised, at the roof that would keep animals safe, at the proof that broken things could be rebuilt. Yeah, she breathed. Yeah, I'm still standing. Wyatt pulled her close, his arms solid and warm. Sarah let herself lean just for a moment, let herself be held. Outside, the first stars appeared, and somewhere in town, Warren Kent sat in his study, staring at a map of the valley. His finger traced the property lines of Sarah Mitchell's land. 3 days, he muttered. Then we'll see how long she stands. The next morning came with a rider Sarah didn't recognize. Young, maybe 20, with a badge pinned crooked on his vest. He dismounted, careful, like he was approaching a wild animal. Mrs. Mitchell. Sarah wiped flour from her hands. Inside the cabin, Wyatt stood, positioning himself between the door and where Emma and Samuel were playing. Daniel grabbed the rifle without being asked. I'm Mrs. Mitchell. Name's Deputy Harris, ma'am. Sheriff Hoskins sent me. The kid's voice cracked. Got a message from Mr. Kent. He's filed preliminary foreclosure papers. Says if you don't make payment on your land taxes by end of month, the property goes to auction. Sarah's stomach dropped. End of month? That's 3 weeks. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry. How much? $200 plus fees. Comes to $237 total. The number hit like a fist. Sarah's knees went weak. That's not legal, Wyatt said from the doorway. Taxes aren't due until April. Mr. Kent's calling in debts early. Says he's got the right under territorial law if the landowner's shown inability to pay. Harris looked miserable. I'm just delivering the message, sir. You're delivering a threat. Daniel stepped onto the porch, rifle loose in his hands. Not aimed, but present. Tell Kent we got 3 weeks. We'll have his money. Daniel. Sarah's voice was sharp. We will, Mama. We'll find it. Harris backed toward his horse. I'll tell the sheriff you got the message. I'm real sorry, ma'am. This don't sit right with me, but I'm just doing my job. We know, Sarah said quietly. Thank you for the courtesy of delivering it in person." After Harris rode away, Sarah sank onto the porch steps. $237. She'd never seen that much money in one place in her entire life. "We'll find it," Daniel repeated, but his voice shook. "How?" Sarah looked at her hands. "We've got nothing to sell. No crops until summer. No, we've got the preserves." Wyatt crouched beside her. "The ones you make. Moses said folks in town used to fight over them. I made 12 jars last fall. Even if I sold them for $1 each, which nobody would pay, that's $12. Then we make more. We've got 3 weeks. That's time enough to make 50 jars if we work fast. With what fruit, there's nothing growing in February. There's wild berries in the canyon, frozen but usable. And Moses mentioned a woman in Silver Creek who hoards dried apples. We could buy them cheap, make apple butter." Wyatt's hand found hers. "It's not impossible. It's close to impossible. Close ain't the same as is." That afternoon, Moses arrived with 2 bushels of dried apples and a plan. "Woman in Silver Creek sold them to me for $3, said she's got more if you need them." He set the bushels on the porch. "And I talked to folks. They'll buy your preserves. Good price too, $1.50 a jar if they're as good as I remember." $1.50? Sarah stared. "Moses, that's robbery. Nobody pays that much." "They will for yours. Trust me." Moses pulled out a ledger. "I already got orders. Abigail wants 6 jars. Tom wants 4. The Hewitts want 10 for their ranch hands. And there's more interest if word spreads." Sarah did the math in her head. 50 jars at $1.50 was $75. Not enough. Not even close. "What about the barn?" Daniel asked suddenly. "We could finish it proper, sell our labor to other folks who need building done." "In 3 weeks." Wyatt shook his head. "We'd need to work miracles." "Then we work miracles." Daniel's jaw was set stubborn. "I ain't letting Kent take this land. I ain't letting Mama lose the last thing Pa gave us." Moses looked at the boy with something like pride. "You got your father's fire, son. All right. Here's what we do. Sarah makes preserves. Daniel and I work on finishing this barn. Then we hire out for quick jobs, fence repairs, roof patches, anything that pays. Wyatt takes Jacob and Samuel into town, sells firewood. Emma helps Sarah. We pool everything. 3 weeks, all in." "Moses, you don't have to." Sarah. Moses's voice was gentle but firm. "I'm old. I'm alone. And I'm tired of watching good people get crushed by bad ones. Let me help. Let me be useful one more time." Sarah's eyes burned. "Thank you." "Don't thank me yet. We got work to do." The next days blurred into exhaustion. Sarah rose before dawn, peeling apples until her hands cramped, stirring pots until her back screamed. Emma worked beside her small hands, careful as she filled jars, her tongue poking out in concentration. "Mama used to make jam," Emma said one morning. "Strawberry. She'd let me taste it before it was done. Said I was her official tester." "What did you think?" Sarah asked, stirring a pot of apple butter that smelled like cinnamon and hope. "I thought it was magic, that she could take something sour and make it sweet." Emma looked up, her eyes too old for 8 years. "Do you think that's what you're doing? Making sour things sweet?" Sarah's throat closed. "I'm trying." "You're doing good, really good." In town, Wyatt and the boys split wood until their shoulders burned. Jacob, small and wiry, hauled the split logs into neat piles. Samuel, quiet Samuel, who barely spoke, stacked them with careful precision, making sure every piece fit perfectly. "You got an eye for this little man," Wyatt told him. Samuel looked up, smiled. "Helping." "Yeah, buddy, you're helping." They sold firewood for 50 cents a cord. In 3 days, they made $8. It wasn't much, but it was something. Daniel and Moses worked dawn to dusk. They finished the barn, Real doors, glass windows salvaged from an abandoned homestead, a loft for hay storage. Then they hired out. Hewitt needs his stable roof patched, Moses said. Pays $5. Crawford's got fence down on his north pasture, Daniel added. Says he'll pay $8 if we can fix it in a day. They took every job, no matter how small, how hard, how far. Daniel's hands blistered, bled calloused over. He lost weight, his face hollowing out, but his eyes stayed fierce. "I ain't quitting Mama," he said one night when Sarah tried to make him rest. "Pa didn't quit at Antietam. I ain't quitting here." By the end of the first week, they'd made $32. Sarah had filled 30 jars of preserves. They needed $237. They had 32. "We're not going to make it," Sarah said quietly. She sat on the porch staring at the jar in her hands. Inside, apple butter gleamed amber. Wyatt sat beside her. "Not with that attitude." "With any attitude, the math doesn't work." "Then we change the math." "How?" He was quiet. "Then, I've got money. Saved, from before Mary died. It's not much, about $40, but it's yours if you need it." "No." Sarah shook her head. "Wyatt, that's your safety. You can't." "I can. And I will." His hand covered hers on the jar. "You stood by me when this town spit in my face. You welcomed me and Emma when we had nothing. You think I'm going to sit back and watch you lose everything? It's not your fight." "Yes, it is. Because you're—" He stopped, swallowed hard. "Because I love you. There. I said it. I love you, and I love those boys, and I'll be damned if I let Kent win." Sarah couldn't breathe. "You love me." "Yeah, I do. I know it's too soon. I know it's complicated. I know—" Sarah kissed him. Hard, desperate tasting of cinnamon and salt from tears she hadn't realized were falling. "I love you too." She breathed against his mouth. "God help me. I love you too." Inside the cabin, Daniel heard through the window. His hand tightened on the wood he'd been whittling. He waited for the anger, for the betrayal. It didn't come. Instead, he felt something like relief. His mama wasn't alone anymore. Whatever happened, she wasn't alone. The second week disaster struck. Sarah was carrying a pot of finished preserves to the cooling table when her foot caught on a loose board. She fell hard, the pot flying. Hot apple butter splattered across the floor, the wall, her hands. She screamed. Emma ran for Wyatt. He came sprinting, found Sarah on the floor, her palms already blistering. "Don't move. Don't touch anything." He grabbed a bucket of cold water, plunged her hands in. "Emma, get the salve from my pack. Daniel, clean cloth. Now." "The preserves?" Sarah gasped through the pain. "A whole batch. Ruined." "Forget the preserves. Your hands." "I need my hands to make more." But when Wyatt pulled them from the water, the damage was clear. Second-degree burns across both palms. Sarah wouldn't be stirring pots for days, maybe longer. "No," Sarah's voice broke. "No, no, no. We can't stop. We need—" "We need you to heal," Wyatt said firmly. "Emma can stir. I can stir. We'll manage." But Emma was 8. Her arms weren't strong enough for the heavy pots, and Wyatt had to keep working with the boys. They needed every dollar from their labor. "I'll do it," Daniel said from the doorway. "Daniel, you're already working 16 hours a day. So I'll work 18. Moses can handle the small jobs alone for a few days. I'll stay here, make preserves, help Emma." He knelt beside his mother. "We don't quit, Mama. Remember, we don't quit." So Daniel became a preserve maker. His large hands, built for carpentry, learned the delicate work of peeling fruit, adjusting heat, testing consistency. He burned the first batch. The second came out too thin. By the third, he was getting it. Emma worked beside him, chattering to fill the silence. "You're good at this," she told him on the 4th day. "Better than me." "Nah, you're better at the jars. Your hands are smaller. Fit in easier. We make a good team." Daniel smiled despite his exhaustion. "Yeah, we do." By week two's end, they'd made 60 jars total. Moses had sold 47 for $1.50 each. $70.50. Add the firewood money, the construction jobs. Wyatt's $40, they had $153. They needed $237. They were still $84 short, with 1 week left. Sarah sat at the table, head in her hands, doing math that wouldn't work no matter how she calculated. "We can't do it," she whispered. "Even if we sell every jar, work every job, we're still short." "Then we borrow," Moses said. "From who the bank won't lend to me. Kent controls half the businesses in town. From me." Moses pulled out a leather pouch. "I got savings. Not much, but enough. $85. Take it." "Moses, I can't." "You can, and you will, because that's what family does." He pressed the pouch into her burned hands. "You'll pay me back when you can, or you won't. Either way, this land stays yours." Sarah broke. Great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. Wyatt pulled her close, held her while she cried. Daniel stood behind her, his hand on her shoulder. Jacob and Samuel pressed against her sides. Emma climbed into her lap. "We got you, Mama," Daniel said quietly. "We all got you." The next morning they rode into town. All of them, Sarah with her bandaged hands, Wyatt driving the wagon, the children in back, Moses on his old mare. Sheriff Hoskins met them at his office. Warren Kent stood beside him, smiling that snake oil smile. "Mrs. Mitchell, I wasn't expecting you for another week. I'm making my payment now." Sarah set the leather pouch on Hoskins' desk. "Counted out the bills. $237. Exact." Kent's smile faltered. "Where did you—" "Honest work, Mr. Kent. Something you wouldn't know about." "Now, Mrs. Mitchell." "Sheriff." Sarah ignored Kent. "I'm current on my taxes. Paid in full. I want a receipt, signed and witnessed." Hoskins looked at Kent. Kent's jaw worked. "Count it," Hoskins said finally. He counted slow, deliberate. $237, exact. "It's all here," Hoskins said, sounding almost disappointed. "Then we're done." Sarah turned to leave. "For now," Kent said quietly. "But taxes come due again next year, Sarah, and the year after. How long can you keep this up?" Sarah stopped at the door. Turned. "Long as I have to. Because that land is mine, my boys' inheritance from their father. And I'll die before I let you take it." Strong words. Let's see if you're still saying them come next February. Outside, Sarah's knees buckled. Wyatt caught her. "We did it," she breathed. "We actually did it." "Yeah." Wyatt kissed her forehead. "We did." They celebrated that night at the homestead. Moses brought a fiddle he'd kept hidden for years. Tom and Abigail came with fresh bread. The Hewitts brought a crate of apples, a gift not payment. "For next year's preserves," Mrs. Hewitt said with a wink. They danced in the barn. Moses played Daniel, clapped rhythm, and Wyatt spun Sarah until she was breathless and laughing. The children chased each other around the fire. Even Samuel shouted, actual shouting, loud and joyful. For one night, the world was good. But across town, Warren Kent sat in his study, staring at Sarah Mitchell's signed receipt. "She humiliated me," he said to his foreman Murphy. "Made me look weak." "What do you want to do about it?" Kent was quiet for a long time. Then, "The boy, Daniel. He goes into town alone sometimes, doesn't he? Couple times a week. Picks up supplies. Next time he does." Kent's eyes went cold. "Teach him a lesson. Not permanent. Just enough to remind his mother what happens when people forget their place." Murphy shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, he's just a kid. He's old enough to work like a man. Old enough to learn like one." Kent poured whiskey, drained it. "Do it quietly. No witnesses. And Murphy." "Yeah. Make sure he knows it was me." 3 days later, Daniel rode into town alone. He needed nail salt and ammunition. Moses had offered to come, but Daniel waved him off. I can handle a supply run, Moses. I ain't helpless. Never said you were. Just be careful. It's Mercy Creek, not the frontier. What's gonna happen? He should have listened. The alley beside the livery was narrow-shadowed. Daniel didn't see them until too late. Murphy stepped out first. 2 ranch hands followed big men, hard men, the kind who got paid to hurt people. Well, look here, Murphy said. The widow's boy. All alone. Daniel's hand went to the coin purse at his belt. $12, enough for supplies and a little extra. Don't want trouble, Mr. Murphy. That's smart. Your mama raised you smart. Murphy smiled. But smart boys know when to pay insurance. Call it a tax for doing business in our town. I already paid taxes. Not those taxes, different kind. Murphy nodded to the other men. Hand over the purse. No. No. Murphy's smile vanished. Boy, you don't tell me no. I just did. They grabbed him fast. Daniel fought, landed 2 good punches before they pinned him against the wall. Murphy took the coin purse, hefted it. $12. Not bad. He leaned close. This is what happens when your mama forgets her place. Tell her Mr. Kent sends his regards. They didn't beat him badly. Just enough split lip, bruised ribs, torn shirt. Just enough to terrify a boy and humiliate a mother. Then they threw him in the mud and walked away laughing. Daniel lay there shaking, not from pain, from rage so hot he could barely breathe. He rode home slow. Every jolt sent fire through his ribs. By the time he reached the homestead, blood had dried on his face. Sarah saw him coming. Ran. Daniel! Her hands flew over him, checking. What happened? Who did this? Murphy, Kent's foreman. Daniel's voice was flat. Took the money. All of it. I don't care about the money. Are you? They said to tell you. Daniel met her eyes. That this is what happens when you forget your place. Kent sent them mama. He sent them to hurt me because you beat him. Sarah's world went red. Wyatt appeared, took one look at Daniel and walked to the cabin. When he came back, his gun belt was strapped on. The first time Sarah had seen him wear it. Wyatt, no. They beat a child. Your child. And if you shoot them, they'll hang you. Then what? Emma loses you. My boys lose you. I lose you. Sarah grabbed his arm. Please, don't give them that power. Then what do? Let them get away with it. We stand. Sarah's voice shook with fury, but she held firm. We stand and we show them that we don't break. That's how we win. Wyatt stood, rigid, hands clenched. Then slowly, so slowly, he unbuckled the gun belt. This ain't over. No. Sarah agreed. It's not. That night, Warren Kent called a town meeting. The church was packed, 60 people, maybe more. Sarah and Wyatt stood at the back, Daniel between them, despite his injuries. Good people of Mercy Creek. Kent began from the pulpit. He'd replaced Clayton, Sarah realized. The preacher sat in the front pew, diminished. We must address the moral decay infecting our community. Here it comes, Sarah thought. A woman living unwed with a man. Children exposed to immorality. Violence in our streets. Kent's eyes found Daniel. As innocent businessmen are attacked by delinquent boys. The crowd murmured. I propose we take action. For the children's sake. The Mitchell boys should be placed under proper guardianship. Civilized homes. And Sarah Mitchell. He paused for effect. Should be required to demonstrate fitness as a mother or forfeit custody. The room exploded, shouting, accusations. Sarah couldn't move, couldn't breathe. They were trying to take her boys. Moses struggled to his feet. This is insanity. You beat a child, and now you claim he's dangerous. Sit down, old man, someone shouted. I'll do no such thing. That woman's got more spine than this whole town combined, and you're crucifying her for it. She's living in sin. She's surviving. There's a difference. Reverend Clayton rose. cleared his throat. The room quieted. "I must confess," Clayton said slowly, "that I have been wrong." Every head turned. I stood in this pulpit and condemned Sarah Mitchell, called her obstinate, dangerous, a threat to our moral order. Clayton's voice cracked. "I was a coward and a bully, and I am deeply, profoundly sorry." The silence was absolute. "Mrs. Mitchell has shown more Christian charity than I ever have. She worked herself to exhaustion to keep her land. She accepted help with grace, and when her enemies tried to destroy her..." He looked at Kent. "She chose mercy over vengeance. That is faith. That is righteousness. And I was too blind to see it." He turned to the congregation. "If we continue this persecution, we are no better than Pharisees. We are hypocrites using God's name to justify cruelty." Kent's face went purple. "Reverend, you forget yourself." "No, I'm remembering myself, for the first time in years." Clayton stepped down from the pulpit, walked to where Sarah stood, extended his hand. "I am so very sorry. Please forgive me." Sarah stared at his hand. Every instinct screamed to refuse, to make him suffer like he'd made her suffer. But then Samuel slipped his hand into hers. Emma did the same on the other side. "Mama says forgiveness is hard," Emma whispered, "but it's important." Sarah took Clayton's hand. "I forgive you." The Reverend's eyes filled. "Thank you." One by one others stood. Abigail, Tom, the Hewitts, Moses, a dozen people, then 24. "I stand with Sarah Mitchell," Tom said. "So do I," Abigail added. "And I." Moses called. The tide was turning. Kent saw it. "You're all fools. She's bewitched you. She..." "Enough." Sheriff Hoskins stood. "Mr. Kent, I think you should leave. I own half this town. And you don't own the other half. Get out." Kent stalked out, his face a mask of fury. Murphy followed. After they left, the congregation erupted in conversation. Some angry, some relieved. But the majority stood with Sarah. Outside, Sarah leaned against the church wall, shaking. "We won," Wyatt said. "Did we? Kent's not going to stop?" "Maybe not, but now we know who's with us. That counts for something." Sarah looked at the people filing out, some avoiding her eyes, others nodding respect. She'd won a battle. Maybe not the war, but for tonight it was enough. At home, they gathered around the fire. Sarah's hands still ached. Daniel's ribs still hurt. They were exhausted, broke, and scared, but they were together. "I'm proud of you," Sarah told Daniel. "The way you didn't fight back. That took strength." "Didn't feel strong. Felt like a coward." "Cowards run. You stood. There's nothing weak about that." Later, after the children slept, Sarah and Wyatt sat on the porch. "What happens now?" she asked. "We keep building, keep fighting, keep standing. For how long? Long as it takes." Sarah leaned against him, exhausted beyond measure. "I'm tired, Wyatt." "I know. But I can't stop." "I know that too." He kissed the top of her head. "Good thing you don't have to do it alone." Above them, stars wheeled across the sky, indifferent and eternal. And inside the cabin, 6 people slept. Broken maybe, but undefeated. Spring came slow to Montana, teasing warmth one day and freezing the next. Sarah's hands healed enough to work again, though the scars remained pink and tight across her palms, a reminder of what they'd survived. The barn stood finished. Red paint gleamed in the April sun, a gift from Moses, who'd found 3 cans in an abandoned homestead. Daniel had insisted on painting it himself, every stroke deliberate, claiming the structure as theirs. "It's beautiful," Sarah said, watching him work. "It's permanent." Daniel climbed down the ladder, paint-flecked and proud. "Kent can't take what we built with our own hands." But Sarah knew better. Kent could take anything. The question was, when, not if. The answer came on a Tuesday morning when the sky turned wrong. Wyatt stepped outside first, coffee in hand. The air tasted metallic heavy. Birds had gone silent. The horizon glowed in ugly green-black clouds roiling like something alive. "Sarah." His voice was tight. "Get the children inside, now." She appeared in the doorway, saw the sky. Her stomach dropped. "Twister. Big one, maybe two. Heading for the valley." Within minutes, the wind picked up. Not gradual, sudden, violent ripping at the barn door. Samuel started crying. Emma clutched her father's leg. "The cellar," Sarah said. "Everyone to the cellar." "There is no cellar, Mama," Jacob said, voice high with fear. "Then the barn, the foundation solid. Get in the southwest corner away from the door." Sarah grabbed supplies blankets, water the rifle. "Move!" They ran. Halfway across the yard, a rider appeared on the road. Not just 1-3. Sheriff Hoskins in front, his badge catching the sickly light. "Mrs. Mitchell," Hoskins shouted over the wind. "We need every able body. Kent's ranch is in the path. Women and children to the churchmen to help evacuate." Sarah's mind went blank. Kent. The man who'd tried to destroy her. Who'd sent men to beat her son. Who'd called her unfit, dangerous, a threat. "Please." Hoskins' horse danced nervous. "I know there's bad blood, but people will die. His ranch hands his livestock. There's 20 people on that property." Wyatt was already moving toward his horse. Sarah grabbed his arm. "You can't. After what he did to Daniel. I have to. Why let him face his own storm?" Wyatt turned his face grave. "Because if I don't, I become him. And I'd rather die than be that." Daniel stepped forward. "I'm coming too." "No." Sarah's voice cracked. "No, you're hurt. You can't." "Mama, if Mr. Wyatt goes and something happens, who's going to tell his story? Who's going to say he died doing right?" Daniel's jaw was set. "I'm coming. That's final." Sarah looked at her 12-year-old son standing tall as a man and realized she couldn't stop him. Couldn't protect him from the world anymore. "Go," she whispered. "Both of you go. But you come back. You hear me? You come back." Wyatt kissed her hard, desperate. "I love you. I love you. Now go." They rode out into the growing storm. Sarah watched until they disappeared, then turned to Moses. "Get the children to the church. I'm going to help." Sarah. "I won't sit in a church while people die, not even people who hate me." She grabbed her coat. "Take care of my babies, Moses. Don't let them be scared." "Where are you going?" "Where I'm needed." At Kent's ranch, chaos had already taken hold. The twister, massive a mile wide, bore down from the northwest. They had maybe 20 minutes. Ranch hands ran in every direction. Someone was screaming. Horses shrieked in their stalls, smelling death on the wind. Kent stood on his porch, shouting orders nobody could hear over the roar. Wyatt dismounted, running. "Livestock! Get them to the east pasture. The twister's veering south." "Who the hell are you to give orders?" Murphy appeared, face twisted. "I'm the man who's trying to save your life. Now move." Daniel ran for the stables. Inside, 6 horses thrashed in their stalls, terrified. He grabbed the first lead rope, got kicked for his trouble, pain exploding in his already bruised ribs. "Easy, easy," he gasped, fighting to breathe. "I'm trying to help." A beam cracked overhead. Dust rained down. "Daniel," Wyatt appeared. "Get out." "Not without the horses." Together they freed 4 before the stable's roof started folding. The last 2 horses, a mare and her foal, were trapped in the back stall. "We have to leave them," Wyatt shouted. "No." Daniel dove for the stall door. The roof collapsed. Wyatt lunged, caught Daniel's collar, dragged him backward, as timber crashed where he'd been standing. The mare screamed. "We tried," Wyatt said, holding Daniel back. "We tried, son." Daniel's face crumpled. "I couldn't save them." "You saved 4. That's 4 more than would have lived. Come on." Outside, the world had gone dark. The twister was close now, so close the air pressure made their ears pop. Sarah appeared through the chaos, leading a line of children, ranch hands, kids, terrified and crying. "Sarah." Wyatt ran to her. "What are you doing here?" "Same as you. Where do we shelter?" "The main house, stone foundation. It's the only chance." They herded everyone inside. 23 people crammed into Kent's parlor, ranch hands, children, Kent himself. The windows exploded inward. Someone screamed, "Get away from the glass!" Sarah pushed children behind furniture. "Cover your heads!" The twister hit like God's own fist. The world became noise, shrieking, tearing the house, groaning under pressure it was never meant to bear. A child wailed. Someone prayed in Spanish. Wyatt covered Emma with his body. Sarah did the same with a boy she didn't know, just a kid maybe Samuel's age, shaking so hard his teeth chattered. "It's okay," she told him, knowing it was a lie. "It's okay, baby, I got you." The noise reached a pitch beyond sound, beyond bearing. Then silence. Not peace. The silence after violence, when the world's still deciding if it's going to keep turning. Wyatt lifted his head. "Everyone alive?" Groans. Coughs. But yes, everyone alive. They emerged into devastation. The ranch house stood barely. The stable was gone, completely gone, like it had never existed. The bunkhouse had lost its roof. Fences were scattered across 3 acres. And in the wreckage, the mare and her foal. Dead. Daniel stood over them, fists clenched, tears cutting tracks through the dust on his face. "I tried," he whispered. "Pa, I tried." Sarah pulled him close. "I know, baby. I know." Kent walked through his destroyed ranch like a man in a dream. His face was gray, aged 10 years in 10 minutes. "It's gone," he said. "Everything's gone." Murphy limped up, blood running from a cut on his forehead. "Sir, we need to start cleaning up. Salvage what we can." "Why?" Kent's voice was hollow. "What's the point?" "Sir, I built this place to matter, to be someone." Kent turned, his eyes empty. "And it's all just gone. Meaningless." Sarah approached slowly. Kent saw her, and his face crumpled. "You came," he said, voice breaking. "After everything I did, you came. I came because people needed help, not for you." I know, I just..." He sank onto a broken beam. "Why? Why would you help me? I tried to destroy you, sent men to hurt your boy, called you unfit, dangerous. Because cruelty answered with cruelty just makes more winter," Sarah said quietly. "Someone had to choose spring." Kent stared at her. Then he dropped his face into his hands and wept. Around them, people worked. Wyatt organized the cleanup, sorting salvageable timber, rounding up scattered livestock, checking for injuries. Daniel worked beside him, silent and grim. Moses arrived with wagons from town. "Church is standing. We can shelter folks there until..." "My place," Sarah interrupted. "We've got the barn. It's got a roof aloft. Folks can stay there." "Sarah, that's..." "What neighbors do. Bring them." By nightfall, the barn held 15 people. Ranch hands and their families, people who days ago called Sarah a threat, now sleeping under her roof. She moved among them with water blankets, quiet words. Emma helped her small hands gentle as she gave a cookie to a crying child. "You're very kind," the child's mother said. After how some of us treated you." "Children don't deserve to pay for adult mistakes," Sarah said simply. "They're safe here. That's what matters." In the corner, Kent sat alone. Wyatt approached, offered coffee. "I don't deserve it." "Probably not. Drink anyway." Kent took the cup, stared into it like it held answers. "I lost everything today. My ranch, my pride, my..." His voice cracked. "My sense that I mattered." "You matter," Wyatt said. "Just not the way you thought." "What's that mean?" "Means mattering ain't about how much land you own or how many people fear you. It's about what you do when someone needs help. About choosing kindness when cruelty's easier. Wyatt sat beside him. You got a chance now. To matter the right way. Kent was quiet for a long time. I don't know how. Start by apologizing. To Daniel. Daniel sat outside staring at the ruins of Kent's stable visible in the distance, the mare's body being pulled away by a wagon. I should have moved faster, he said when Kent approached. Should have been stronger, You should have been safe, Kent interrupted. A boy your age shouldn't have to risk his life for horses that weren't his, shouldn't have to be strong, you should get to be a child. Daniel looked up, surprise and suspicion warring in his face. I'm sorry, Kent said, for sending Murphy to hurt you, for threatening your mother, for all of it. I was wrong, deeply unforgivably wrong. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't, not yet. But maybe... Kent swallowed hard. Maybe I can earn it, over time, if you'll let me try. Daniel studied him, then extended his hand. One chance, Mr. Kent. You waste it, we're done. One chance is more than I deserve. Kent shook his hand. Thank you. Inside the barn, Sarah found Wyatt standing in the loft looking out over the valley. She climbed the ladder, stood beside him. You saved lives today, she said. So did you. We both did. Together. Wyatt turned to face her. I've been thinking about what happens next. He took her hand. About us. Sarah's heart hammered. What about us? I want to stay. Not as hired help. Not as your partner in building. He dropped to one knee. Wyatt. I know it's fast. I know it's complicated. But I also know I love you more than I thought I'd ever love anyone again. And I know those boys down there need a father. And Emma needs a mother. And we're already a family in every way that matters except one. He pulled a ring from his pocket. Not the horseshoe nail, something better, a simple silver band. Moses helped me trade for it, took most of what I had left, but... His voice broke. Sarah Mitchell, will you marry me? Sarah couldn't breathe, couldn't speak, could only nod, tears streaming. Yes, yes, she gasped. Yes, yes, yes. He slid the ring on her finger, stood, kissed her like a man starving for hope. Below them, someone started clapping. Daniel watching from the barn floor. Then Jacob joined. Samuel, Emma, Moses. One by one, everyone in the barn clapped, some crying, most smiling. About damn time, Moses called up. Thought I'd have to knock your heads together. Sarah laughed through her tears. How long have you been planning this? Since the day I saw you standing in the church square, Wyatt said. Took me a while to work up the nerve. They climbed down to congratulations embraces. Emma launched herself at Sarah. Does this mean you're my mama now? If you'll have me? Yes. Emma squeezed tight. I always wanted a big family. Samuel tugged Sarah's skirt. Wyatt's my papa. Sarah knelt. If that's all right with you. Samuel looked at Wyatt, then nodded solemn. Okay. He's good. High praise, Wyatt said, scooping the boy up. I'll try to deserve it. Daniel stood apart, arms crossed. Not angry, processing. Sarah went to him. You okay with this? You love him? Yes. He loves you for real, not just for real. Daniel was quiet. Then, Pa's last letter said not to let you be alone. Said you'd need someone. He met her eyes. I think he'd approve. You think? Yeah, Wyatt's good people. He stood when others ran. That's what Pa always said mattered. Daniel's voice cracked. Just don't forget, Pa. Okay, don't forget we were his first. Sarah pulled him close. Never. Not ever. You boys will always be Thomas Mitchell's sons. Wyatt's not replacing him, he's just helping us carry what your father left behind. Okay. Daniel hugged her tight. Okay, Mama. I'm happy for you. That night, they gathered around the fire. 20 people, full bellies, despite slim rations, warm, despite the chill. Kent approached Sarah hesitantly. Mrs. Mitchell. Sarah. Sarah, I want to make amends. Real amends, not just words. He pulled out papers. These are the foreclosure documents I filed. I'm tearing them up. Your land is yours, free and clear, and... He swallowed hard. I'm donating lumber for anyone who lost structures today. No charge, including materials to expand your barn if you need it. Sarah stared. Why? Because you showed me what strength really looks like, and because I want to be better than I was. He extended his hand. Truce. Sarah shook it. Truce. Reverend Clayton stood. If I may, I'd like to say something. The barn quieted. Today we saw what this community can be. We saw Sarah Mitchell open her doors to people who'd shunned her. We saw Wyatt Cole risk his life for strangers. We saw children of supposed enemies playing together. His voice thickened. This is what the good book actually teaches. Not judgment, not exclusion. Grace. Amen, Moses said. Amen, others echoed. And I'd like to formally ask Sarah and Wyatt. Clayton smiled. When would you like to be married? Because I'd be honored to perform the ceremony. Sarah and Wyatt exchanged glances. Sunday, Wyatt suggested. Sunday. Sarah agreed. The barn erupted in celebration. Someone produced a fiddle. Moses played, and people danced, despite exhaustion, despite loss, despite everything. Emma and Samuel danced together, her teaching him steps. Jacob danced with Abigail's daughter. Daniel stood to the side, watching, almost smiling. Sarah and Wyatt danced slow, holding each other close. You sure about this? He asked. About me. More sure than I've been about anything. Even with all the complications, the town, the history, especially with the complications. Sarah smiled. Easy things don't matter as much. Hard things, things you have to fight for, those matter forever. Then I guess we're forever. Yeah, I guess we are. Outside, the night was clear. Stars bright enough to wish on. The twister had passed, leaving destruction, but also possibility, the chance to rebuild better, stronger together. In the barn, Murphy approached Daniel. Kid, Murphy cleared his throat. What I did, in the alley. That was wrong. Cowardly. You didn't deserve it. No, I didn't. I ain't asking forgiveness. Just wanted you to know I see it, what I did, and I'm sorry. Daniel studied him. You work for Kent still? Yeah. Then make sure he keeps his word. About the lumber, about the truce, about being better. I will. You got my word. Words are cheap. Actions matter. Murphy nodded slowly. You're right. Actions matter. I'll prove it. Later, when most people slept, Sarah stood on the porch of the barn loft, looking out over her land. Behind her, Wyatt's arms wrapped around her waist. What are you thinking? He asked. That a year ago I was alone, drowning, watching everything slip away. And now I've got you. Got Moses and the people from town. Got a barn full of folks who came together when it mattered. She leaned back against him. Now I've got hope. Hope's a powerful thing. So's love. They stood in comfortable silence. Then, Sarah. You awake? Daniel's voice from below. Yeah, baby, come up. He climbed the ladder, stood beside them. For a moment, 3 people looking at stars. I've been thinking, Daniel said, about what happens next, after you and Mr. Wyatt get married. What about it? Will things change with us? Wyatt turned to face him. Daniel, I'm not trying to be your father. Thomas Mitchell was your father. I'm just a man who stood with us when nobody else would. Daniel finished. A man who loves my mama, who treats my brothers like they matter. He swallowed hard. I think maybe you could be something else. Not a replacement, just yours. Mine, yeah. Our Wyatt. If that's okay. Wyatt's eyes burned. That's more than okay. His voice cracked. That's perfect. Daniel nodded, satisfied. Good. Then it's settled. You marry Mama on Sunday, and we're what, a family? A family, Sarah confirmed. All 6 of us. A family. Weird family. Best kind, Wyatt said. Daniel almost smiled. Yeah, best kind. He climbed back down, leaving Sarah and Wyatt alone again. He's a good kid, Wyatt said. He's had to grow up too fast. Maybe, but he's growing up strong, like his mama. Below them, the barn full of people, former enemies, new friends, chosen family, slept safe and warm. Tomorrow they'd rebuild. Tomorrow there'd be new challenges, new storms. But tonight they had this: peace, community, love. And for people who'd spent so long in winter, even the promise of spring was everything. Sarah looked at the ring on her finger, catching starlight. Thought of Thomas buried far away, and hoped he'd understand. Hoped he'd be proud. I think he'd like you, she whispered. You're Thomas. Yeah. I think he'd like that. I chose someone who'd stand in the storm with me. That's all I know how to do, Wyatt said. Stand. With you. For you. Beside you. Long as you'll have me. Forever then. Forever. They stood together as the night deepened, as the stars wheeled overhead, as the world kept turning despite everything it had thrown at them. And in the morning they'd start building again. Because that's what survivors do. They stand, they build, they love. They choose spring even in the coldest winter. Always. Sunday morning arrived soft and golden, the kind of light that makes promises feel possible. Sarah woke before dawn in the barn loft surrounded by sleeping bodies. Emma curled against her side. Samuel's small hand in hers, the gentle breathing of people who'd found safety under her roof. She slipped free, carefully climbed down the ladder. Outside the world was still. Dew sparkled on grass. Birds sang their first songs. Today she'd marry Wyatt Cole. The thought made her breathless, terrified, hopeful all at once. Couldn't sleep either. She turned. Wyatt stood by the creek washing his face in the cold water. His shirt was off, scars visible across his back, old wounds from the war, from hard living, from survival. Thinking, Sarah admitted. Good thinking or scared thinking. Both. She joined him at the water's edge. What if we're making a mistake, moving too fast? Are we? I don't know. Thomas has been gone less than a year. People will talk. They'll say I didn't mourn proper, that I'm... Sarah. Wyatt took her hands, wet and cold. Do you love me? Yes. Do I love you? Yes. Then the rest is just noise. He kissed her knuckles. People who've never lost someone don't get to tell us how to survive losing them. We do what we need to keep standing. If that's each other, then that's nobody's business but ours. You make it sound simple. It is simple. Not easy simple. We choose each other every day. That's all marriage is. Sarah studied his face, weathered and kind, and realized he was right. This wasn't betraying Thomas. This was honoring what Thomas had wanted for her to live, not just survive. Okay, she breathed. Okay, let's do this. Yeah. Inside the barn, people stirred. Moses was already up making coffee over the fire. He grinned when he saw them. Big day, you two. Ready? As we'll ever be, Wyatt said. Good, because I took the liberty of organizing some help. Moses gestured to where Abigail and the Hewitt women were emerging from the house carrying baskets. The ladies wanted to make sure this wedding had proper fixings. Moses, we can't afford. Didn't ask you to. This is community Sarah. Let folks give. By mid-morning, the homestead had transformed. Someone had strung wildflowers between the barn and the house. Tables appeared planks on sawhorses, but covered in clean cloth. Food materialized, roasted chicken, fresh bread pies, even a cake decorated with careful icing flowers. Where did all this come from? Sarah asked, overwhelmed. Kent donated the chickens, Abigail explained. Tom's wife made the bread. The Hewitts brought vegetables from their root cellar. And the cake, she smiled. That's from me. Figured you deserved something sweet. Sarah's eyes burned. Thank you. All of you. Emma appeared holding a dress. Mama, is this what you're wearing? Sarah looked at the threadbare brown dress she'd been planning on. I don't have anything else, sweetheart. Yes, you do. Emma shook out the fabric. It was blue, pale blue, like spring sky, simple but clean with careful embroidery at the collar. Mrs. Hewitt made it. She said every bride deserves something beautiful. I can't accept. You can, Mrs. Hewitt said firmly, appearing behind Emma. And you will. Now go change. We've got an hour before the ceremony, and you need to look like a woman getting married, not a woman mucking stalls. They ushered Sarah into the house, helped her bathe actual hot water heated over the fire, and dressed her in the blue dress. Abigail braided her hair, weaving in small white flowers. There, Abigail said, stepping back. Beautiful. Sarah looked in the small mirror. The woman staring back was someone she barely recognized, not worn down, not defeated. Hopeful. Alive. Thomas would approve, she whispered. He would, Mrs. Hewitt agreed. A good man wants his wife to be happy, even if he can't be the one making her happy anymore. Outside, Daniel stood with Wyatt behind the barn, both in clean shirts. Daniel's new purchased by Moses yesterday, despite protests. You nervous? Daniel asked. Terrified. Good. Means you care. Wyatt glanced at him. Your daddy teach you that? Yeah. He said a man who ain't scared of commitment is a man who doesn't understand what he's committing to. Daniel's voice wavered. He was scared when he married Mama, told me once. Said it was the good kind of scared, the kind that makes you try harder. He was right. They stood in silence. Then Daniel cleared his throat. Mr. Cole Wyatt, I want to say something. Before everything gets official. All right. I've been angry. At God, at the war, at Pa, for leaving at Mama, for... He swallowed hard. For moving on. But watching you these past months, I realized something. Pa didn't leave because he wanted to. He left because he thought it mattered. And he'd want us to keep living, keep building. He'd want Mama to be happy. I think so too. So I'm giving you permission. I know you don't need it, but I'm giving it anyway. To marry my Mama, to be part of our family, to... His voice cracked. To be someone we can count on. Wyatt's throat closed. Daniel, I promise you I will spend every day trying to deserve that trust. I know. That's why I'm giving it. Daniel extended his hand. Not a boy's handshake anymore. A man's. Wyatt took it. Thank you, son. Don't call me son yet. We ain't official. Daniel almost smiled. After the ceremony, you can call me whatever you want. At noon, people gathered. Not just the folks from the barn more. Tom and his family. The storekeeper looking sheepish but present. Ranchers from neighboring properties. Even young Deputy Harris, still awkward but sincere. 40 people, maybe 50. The biggest gathering Sarah's land had ever seen. Reverend Clayton stood at the front, Bible open. He looked different, humbler somehow. Lighter. Friends, he began, we're gathered today to witness something beautiful. Not just a marriage, but a testament to resilience. To forgiveness. To choosing love when hate would be easier. Sarah stood beside the barn, Daniel on one side, Jacob and Samuel on the other. Emma held her hand. You ready? Daniel asked. I think so. Good, because Wyatt looks like he's about to pass out. Sarah laughed despite her nerves. Then let's save him. They walked forward together, her boys flanking her, Emma skipping ahead to stand beside her father. A family already just making it official. Wyatt saw her and his face transformed. Fear vanished. Only joy remained. You're beautiful, he breathed when she reached him. You're not so bad yourself. Clayton smiled. Shall we begin? The ceremony was simple. No long speeches, no elaborate rituals. Just two people battered by life choosing to face what came next together. Wyatt Cole, do you take Sarah Mitchell to be your wife? To stand with her in storms, to build with her in peace, to love her children as your own? I do. I absolutely do. Sarah Mitchell, do you take Wyatt Cole to be your husband? To trust him with your heart, to welcome his daughter as your daughter, to face whatever comes side by side? Sarah looked at Wyatt, saw the scars and the strength, saw the man who'd stood when everyone else walked away, saw her future. I do. Then by the power vested in me and in the sight of this community, I pronounce you husband and wife. Wyatt, you may kiss your bride. He did. Gentle at first, then deeper, and the crowd cheered. Daniel whooped. Jacob threw his hat. Samuel clapped his small hands together. Emma squealed with delight. And Sarah felt something she hadn't felt in over a year. Complete. The celebration lasted into evening. Moses played fiddle. People danced. Children ran wild, free, and joyful. Food disappeared from tables, replaced by conversation and laughter. Kent approached during a quiet moment, hat in his hands. Mrs. Cole, Sarah, I wanted to say... He stopped searching for words. What you've built here, it's remarkable. Not just the barn or the homestead. The community. The forgiveness. You've shown me what I should have been all along. And what's that? Human. Just human. Flawed and trying to be better. Sarah smiled. That's all any of us are, Warren. Flawed and trying. I'm going to rebuild my ranch, but different this time. Fair wages, no more threats or manipulation, and I'm donating part of my land for a school, so kids don't have to ride 10 miles to learn. That's good. Really good. It's a start. He extended his hand. Friends. Sarah took it. Friends. As sunset painted the sky orange and gold, Wyatt found Sarah by the creek. They'd stolen a moment alone, rare and precious. How you feeling, Mrs. Cole? Strange. Good strange. She leaned into him. Scared still, but less alone. You're not alone. You've got me the kids, this whole ridiculous community. When did that happen? When did we go from outcasts to this? When we chose to stand instead of run. When we showed them that broken people can still be strong people. He turned her to face him. You did that, Sarah. You stood when standing seemed impossible. We stood. Together. Yeah, together. They kissed as the sun set, as their family laughed and played behind them, as the world proved that sometimes against all odds, broken things really could be made whole. That night after the guests left and the children finally slept, Sarah and Wyatt stood on their porch. Not hers, not his, but theirs. You think we'll make it? Sarah asked. Really make it? I think we already are making it. Every day we wake up and choose each other, we're making it. Even when it's hard. Especially when it's hard. Inside, Daniel woke to use the outhouse. On his way back, he paused outside the barn, where his father's tools still hung the hammer Thomas had used to level the saw. He touched them gently. I hope you're okay with this, Pa, he whispered. With Wyatt. With Mama being happy again. I think you would be. I think you'd like him. The tools didn't answer. But somewhere in Daniel's chest, something tight loosened. Permission, maybe. Or just peace. He went back inside, climbed to his loft space. Below, Emma and Samuel slept in a pile of blankets. Jacob sprawled beside them. His family. Strange and patchwork, but his. The next morning, life resumed. Not the old life of desperation and fear, but something new. Wyatt and Daniel built fence lines for the animals Kent had promised. Sarah and Emma worked the garden planting seeds for summer vegetables. Jacob and Samuel collected eggs from the chickens, arguing over whose turn it was to chase the mean rooster. Moses stopped by mid-morning with news. "Town's talking. Good talk for once. Folks want to do a proper barn raising at Kent's place. Asked if you'd help organize it." "Me?" Sarah blinked. "Why me?" "Because you showed them what community means. They want to learn." So the next week, 40 people gathered at Kent's destroyed ranch. They worked together, former enemies side by side, raising walls, hammering nails, building something better than what the storm had taken. During a break, Murphy approached Daniel. "Kid, I got something for you." He held out $12. "From the alley. I've been holding on to it. Should have given it back sooner." Daniel stared at the money. "You kept it. Couldn't spend it. Felt like blood money. It's yours. Always was." Daniel took it slowly. "Thank you." "Don't thank me. I should have never taken it." Murphy hesitated. "I'm trying to be better. Like Mr. Kent. Like you." "I'm not perfect." "No. But you're decent. That's harder." By summer, the homestead thrived. The garden exploded with tomatoes, squash, beans. The chickens laid enough eggs to sell. Sarah's preserves became famous. People ordered them from 3 counties over. Daniel apprenticed with Moses at the forge, his hands growing strong and sure. Jacob helped Wyatt with carpentry. Samuel spoke in full sentences, now his voice high and clear, telling stories that made Emma laugh. And Sarah woke each morning beside a man who loved her in a house full of voices on land that was truly hers. One evening in August, she stood at Thomas's grave. She'd finally had money for a proper headstone. It read, "Thomas Mitchell, beloved husband and father. He stood for freedom." "I married him," she told the stone. "Wyatt, I know you'd understand. I know you'd want me to be happy. But I needed to tell you anyway. To say thank you. For the boys. For the land. For teaching me how to stand." The wind rustled through the grass. Not an answer, but not silence either. "I'll never forget you," Sarah whispered. "They'll never forget you. But we're moving forward now. And I think you'd be proud." She turned to leave and found Wyatt waiting by the wagon. "You okay?" he asked. "Yeah, I am. Good talk. The best kind. The kind where you say goodbye without leaving." They rode home as the sun set, painting the valley in shades of gold and amber. Ahead, smoke rose from their chimney. Laughter drifted from the open windows. Home sounds, family sounds. "You know what I realized," Sarah said. "What's that?" "A year ago I thought my life was over, that losing Thomas meant losing everything. And now I know that life doesn't end. It changes. Sometimes it breaks. But if you're willing to rebuild, if you're willing to let people help," she smiled, "it can become something beautiful. Different than before, but beautiful. You're beautiful. We're beautiful. All of us. This strange, broken patchwork family." At home, the children waited on the porch. Daniel held a letter. "Mama." A letter came from the territorial governor. Sarah's heart jumped. "What does it say?" Daniel read aloud. "To Mrs. Sarah Cole and family. I have heard of your efforts to build community in Mercy Creek. Your story of resilience and forgiveness has reached the territorial capital. I would like to honor you at the Autumn Assembly as an example of Montana frontier spirit. Signed, Governor Potts." Silence. Then chaos, everyone talking at once. "Mama's going to meet the governor. We're famous. Can we go too? Do we have to dress fancy?" Sarah couldn't speak. Wyatt pulled her close. "You did this," he said. "You showed them what matters. We did this, all of us." That night they gathered around the table, 8 chairs now because Moses and Kent had both become regular fixtures at supper. The conversation flowed easy, comfortable, the kind that comes from people who've weathered storms together. "Tell the story again," Emma begged, "about the day at the church, when Papa said, 'So do I.'" Wyatt smiled. "Which version? The true one, or the one where I looked brave?" "The true one." "All right. Well, I was terrified." "You didn't look terrified," Sarah interjected. "I was good at hiding it. My knees were shaking so bad I thought I'd fall down the church steps." "But you didn't fall," Samuel said. "You stood." "Yeah, buddy, I stood." "Because standing matters," Daniel added. "Even when you're scared." "Especially when you're scared," Sarah corrected gently. Later, after the children slept and the house quieted, Sarah and Wyatt sat on their porch. The stars were infinite overhead. The barn stood solid in red. The garden rustled with late summer growth. "You think we'll always remember this?" Sarah asked. "This feeling of having survived something hard. I think we'll carry it, not as a wound, but as a reminder." "Of what?" "That we're stronger than we knew. That family isn't always blood. That love is a choice, not a feeling. And that sometimes the best things in life come after the worst things." Sarah rested her head on his shoulder. "I love you, Wyatt Cole." "I love you too, Sarah Cole. Today, tomorrow, always." Inside, Daniel lay awake one more time. He thought of his father buried under Montana earth. Thought of Wyatt sleeping in what used to be his father's house. Thought of the strange shape his family had taken. It didn't hurt anymore. Or maybe it did, but differently. The kind of hurt that comes from growing, not breaking. "We're okay, Pa," he whispered to the darkness. "We're better than okay. We're home." And they were. In a barn painted red against the Montana sky, on land watered with tears and built with hope. A family chosen and blood broken and whole had found their place. The frontier was harsh, unforgiving. It took without mercy and gave without promise. But sometimes, if you were stubborn enough to stand, when the world told you to fall, brave enough to love, when hate seemed easier, foolish enough to believe in second chances, sometimes the frontier gave back. And what it gave was this: a home, a family, a future. The Mitchell Cole homestead would stand for 3 generations. The barn Daniel and Wyatt built would shelter animals through 100 winters. Sarah's preserves would be sold for 50 years, the recipe passed down mother to daughter. But more than that, they'd leave a legacy of something harder to build and easier to destroy. They'd leave proof that broken people could heal, that outcasts could become family, that a woman alone and a widower with nothing could build something that mattered. They'd leave proof that kindness was stronger than cruelty, that forgiveness was braver than revenge, and that standing together always, no matter what, was the only thing that truly mattered. Years later, when Emma told her own children about her childhood, she'd always start the same way. "Once upon a time there was a woman who stood when everyone told her to fall, and a man who said, 'So do I.' And from that choice, from that moment of defiance and hope, an entire family was born." And her children would ask, what happened to them? Did they live happily ever after? Emma would smile that same bright smile she'd had as a child. They lived, not perfectly, not easily, but together, and that's better than any fairy tale ending. Because in the end, that's all any of us can hope for, not perfection, but presence. Not a life without storms, but people who'll stand with us when the storms come. The Mitchell Cole family had that, and it was everything.